Or is a post-punk band from Canada that I have been very fond of for the past few years. I think they put out some great albums, like More Than Any Other Day, their debut album, which came out in 2014. Then they followed it up with an even better album in 2015 with Sun Coming Down. Fucking great album. I bought that shit on vinyl. It sounds excellent. And these guys are just so frantic. They're so chaotic. They're just so, like, eccentric, you know? The vocalist of this band is just an absolute, like, frontman of a vocalist, seriously. The instrumentation is always all over the place, but it's controlled and measured in a very good way. And they make a great throwback to the television days of post-punk with a mixture of like Talking Heads, so many other great post-punk bands. A bit of Velvet Underground in there too. Like, seriously, they are very well crafted in the way that they use their influences but also sound very original. And Room Inside the World is a bit of a change of pace. A few years after Sun Coming Down, of course, they've probably grown a little bit in their ways. I guess they wanted to change things up. Tim Darcy put out a solo album last year, which I thought was pretty bland, honestly. Didn't think too much of it. But I definitely sense that his sort of songwriting influences from that album have definitely bled into this new album, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. It's just initially it was a bit of a off-putting thing for me. I wasn't wanting this kind of album, especially considering how just insane Sun Coming Down was and how like herky-jerky everything was. It was just such a full throttle album that I loved, and I was wanting more of that. So when I came into this album and could tell straight away that the sound was very different, I was definitely disappointed at first. Now, not to say that I was right to be disappointed, because honestly, it has grown on me over time after listening to this over and over again. It's just that initial sort of realization that their sound isn't what it once was can actually upset you a little bit sometimes with certain bands, and I think it affects a lot of people. Sometimes you've just got to get over it and realize that bands change, bands grow, but sometimes a sound is so like it's just so unique and it's such a signature sound for an artist that when they've changed it up, it's like, oh really, like you did that why? And I'll definitely go as far as saying this change of pace definitely isn't for the better. I would say this is their worst album quite easily, but that's not to say that it's bad at all. I don't think all are a bad band at this point. Like they are making great music still. I think that the songwriting and the lyricism is definitely the highlight of this album. Like I said, that's Tim Darcy's solo albums probably pushed him to want to make more poetic music, and you can definitely tell that's what's going on with this album. You can see that there's like an appreciation for the finer details in things. He makes references to like the colors in the sky on the first track. In Disgraced in America, he's talking about like birds flying around. He makes a few references to that. You get that Mount Erie vibe from a lot of these tracks. He's certainly paying attention to small mundane things, and you can sort of sense that something has happened to Tim Darcy in the past few years that have impacted him as a person, to the point where he's just feeling like all the little things have some kind of significance. But then when you hone in on some of the lyrics across the album, you sort of get the sense that actually it's not the little things that are impacting him at all. It's actually something on a bigger scale, like to the point where something has reached inside his body and took his soul away. And there's a point in one of the tracks, I think it's These Three Things, where he questions, will I hear my soul? As if he's trying to say, like, is it even there? Will I be able to hear it? Like, it's some pretty deep stuff. The imagery across this album is actually quite remarkable. Like, holy shit, he is a talented songwriter. Like, I don't think it was something I noticed on their previous albums, because I was so focused on the way he was singing and the way the instrumentation sounded. I probably ditched the lyrics a little bit too easily. That's probably my fault. But on this album, man, the vivid details are really quite special, to the point where I'm kind of worrying for him. Like, honestly, like on Disaffection, where he's like, disaffection is holy, like, it makes me feel alive. Like, Ooh. So yeah, I can't help but feel like I'm praising the lyrics, but also in the same way feel hurt by them. Like honestly, these lyrics are very, very well written, but at the same time, they're just so harsh to like accept. It's honestly just such a shame that I'm not as invested in the music. Like, I think that Tim Darcy's vocals don't really fit this style too well. Like, you don't always feel like you're impacted by these words. Like some of these words, like I've just been saying, are quite powerful, but he doesn't really have any sort of like um way of saying them. Like he doesn't have like a certain voice that like throws these words out there like in a Phil Elverum way, as I referenced to Mount Erie. Like that album, A Crow Looked at Me, like you do feel like you're being hit by the words, just the way he's pained. But like with Tim Darcy, he's just such an eccentric vocalist. Like I can't help but feel like this might have been done better if he was like yelping them out like he has done on previous albums. Because then in that way it would work in that sort of sense, like happy song, sad lyrics type thing that tends to work really well. And I think that if you'd not, like if they'd have done this like sun coming down with these lyrics, like just imagine how shocked you'd be if you like read into the lyrics and you're like, oh my god, this is what he's singing about. Like I never knew. I feel like that would have been more of like an impact, really. But I guess they're just really minor gripes, because I feel like a lot of people that love Orc will probably still love this album, but I just feel disconnected again because the music just isn't as gripping to me, unfortunately. Really, the one standout track that I would say works best is Desire, because like I feel like there's a good melody on this track. And that's not to say the other tracks don't have good melody. They do sound good, like that's not what I'm saying. This is a good album. It's just I feel like I'm appreciating it more than I'm enjoying it. It's one of those things, you know? So with all that in mind, I would definitely grade this a C+. Just personally not something that I would gravitate towards, especially considering I just enjoy the music on the previous two albums. But you never know. On a sad day, I could put this on and grow to like love it in that sense that it impacts you in an emotional way. But at this point, I guess I'm just appreciating it from a standpoint and seeing that the lyrics are very well written, the imagery is brilliant, and it's just the music really is just decent at best for me. So a C plus, I would say, is the best score I can give, or the best grade even. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this Orc album. Go listen to Orc if you never have, please. Very good band. And yeah, if you've heard this album, let me know your thoughts too. Let me know I should review next. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews and discussion videos, interviews, podcasts, track reactions, all that shit. And yeah, have a good day. Yeah.